Good morning, everyone. Uh, Today is our class Writing for Public Relations. Writing for Public Relation, page number 134, 135. First of all, we will discuss, page 30, 134, basics of news release writing. Now, here we will read and we will discuss some stuff, and then we'll see if there is anything that is vague or cannot be explained. We'll explain it in details. First of all, I want to tell you that for this class there will be no homeworks for you, so you will have some kind of relax. I just want you to read and watch this video, and that's all you need to do. Okay, let me read and I'll give you some explanations. Page 134, public writing for public relations. Writing for public relations is not like a paint by numbers kit. You cannot simply fill in blanks on news release template or prepare an effective release. Writing a good release takes talent and planning. However, guidelines do exist to channel your talent and planning toward your conventional news style writing. What follows is not a formula, but rather a pattern found in most effective news releases. Learn this model and adapt it to suit the needs of your particular writing project. Most news releases follow a format similar to the basic news article. The well-known inverted pyramid style, in which the most important information is at the top, with the information of a lesser important following. This provides for the most important information to be presented first. Exhibit 6.2 depicts the elements of news release following the inverted pyramid style. But remember that no formula should dictate how a news release is written. Let the formula be your guide, but temper it with your own news judgment, writing skills, and common sense. So here on page 135, you have a template, okay, for writing news releases, and here they explain the elements of the news releases. For example, look at this picture in page 135, except 6.2. We have like a pyramid, but the pyramid in the opposite way. A pyramid in Arabic, haram. So it starts with a summary news lead. So you start with the summary news lead when you write public relation writing, you know, release. So the first thing that you start with the news lead, and then you go to the benefit statement, and then you go and you make it very specific to talk about the information or action statements, and then you talk about secondary details, and then you go to background, and finally you put the organizational ID. Now, what is important about this chart is that the first thing that you have to understand is that you have to start with a news lead. The lead is the most important thing. Simply, when you start to write a public relation release, you have to start with the most important thing. What concerns us as publics is what you want to say to us as a news, as something that we want to learn about. So that's why you have to start with the news lead. Now, down the page here, we have an explanation for leads. Let me read, and then we will see if there's anything that needs explanation. Call me Esmail or Ishmael. Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of York. In the beginning, God created heavens and earth. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. You're already a writer. Beginnings are big. Deal in all kinds of writing, and public relation writers take lead seriously. The lead is the first paragraph of a news release, and this is the definition of the leads. The lead is the first paragraph of a news release. Its purpose is to attract the attention of each member of your key public. First, the media gatekeeper who will decide whether to use the release, and then the reader, listener, and viewers. So here they explain what the lead means, which is the first paragraph of the news release. Now, what you should do in the first paragraph is to attract the attention of the gatekeepers of the news, uh, of the media, and you have to also attract the attention of the reader, the listener, and the viewers. And that's why the lead is very important. Simply, in the lead, you have to attract the attention of the audience. Okay, let me continue reading. Because it serves as the gateway to the entire story, the lead is crucial to the success of news release. The information in the lead is the basis for the editor's decision on whether to use the release. First, the impressions count, and few editors will waste time reading an entire release if the lead does not grab their attention. Likewise, readers will decide whether to spend time with the story on the basis of whether the lead interests them or not. And this is very important. In order to be a successful public relation writer, you have to have a very attractive and attention grabbing lead. Without this lead, without having something that make us read your piece, then there's no need to read your piece. So simply, the lead is the most important thing. The lead is the part that gives us the impression that we have to finish this article that you're writing. Okay, the next paragraph. The most common type of the lead used by public relation writer is the summary news lead, which present the most significant and interesting fact in the first one or two paragraphs. Too little information and then the lead is boring. Too much detail and the reader become confused. As a writer, you will strive for an effective middle ground. You can accomplish this by drafting the basic facts and then sifting through additional information using that which adds to the meaning without creating confusion. Remember the Sila Pati plus Anfa. You remember these things that we discussed before, involving information that is significant, local, balanced, timely, unusual, and associated with the famous people. So simply here in the leads or the summary news lead, you have to be very balanced, meaning that you don't be mentioning too much information, and at the same time you have to mention something that is worthwhile and that is worth reading, because we as readers, we want to find something new, we want to find something that is interesting. So you have to be balanced, and you have to be in the middle ground. Don't over exaggerate, don't put too much information so we can get confused in the news lead summary, and don't put little information so there's nothing to be interested in your reading. The next paragraph. In general, the who, what, when, where, why, how approach is useful, but don't try to include each element in a single sentence or um, even one paragraph. Weigh one element against another and choose the most interesting elements for the lead. Save the other news elements for the later in the story. Look at the example in FYI, developing, developing a lead. To see how a lead can be grafted as one bit of information is layered on one. Tips for better writing, differences between public relation and journalist writing. Discuss the differences between the two fields as release to the lead writing. Okay, the most important advice about writing effective leads is to plan carefully, think clearly, and write to the point. Following are some additional reminders about writing a summary news lead. So here we have an explanation on how to write a good news or summary lead. So simply you have to be very effective by planning carefully, clearly, and right to the point. This is the most important thing about the news leads. Okay, and now the first part in the leads is the news. Lead with the news, and I'm reading here. Lead with the news. Don't begin with the minor details, such as attribution. Avoid the too common mistake of lead with focus on the organization, or worse, on the head of the organization. In other words, avoid the aversion. So simply here, you have to be a balanced writer. Don't focus on for example, the organization itself or the head of the organization, but try to focus on the news itself. Look at the example here. We have two examples and we will discuss them. Torrance Lakeman, administrator of County Hospital, announced today that a cardiac care unit will be added next year to the hospital service. Now look at the second example. Instead of backing into the news, present it up front and then follow with the organization link. In many cases, passive voice can be useful for this because it places important information at the beginning of the sentence. Now look at the second sentence. County Hospital will expand its service next year with the addition of cardiac care unit. Superintendent Torrance Lakeman said today. Now here look at the first example and the second example. The first example we have to start with the person, okay, the superintendent of the or the administrator of the county hospital. Now the first sentence we start with the person. The second sentence we start with the hospital itself and what it's going to offer us. So what we are interested in is what the hospital is offering us, not what the person or who is the administrator of that organization. So the second sentence is better because we start with the news itself rather than with the person or the organization. All right, so we will explain the FYI developing a lead. Let me read and then we will comment here. Consider this scenario. Central University has received a 50,000 research grant from the State Council to combat drug abuse. The purpose of this grant is to study persuasive communication, specifically the kind of messages that are effective in persuading teens and young adults to avoid illegal drugs use. First, we write the basic information. Researcher at the Central University has received a grant. You see, like how the steps you do to write a very perfect lead. Then we begin to add some details, weaving some of the information that can make this a newsworthy statement. A communication research at the Central University has received a 50,000 state grant to study drug abuse. So it's like a step. You start with the most important thing, which is a researcher at Central University has received a grant, and then you go to the next one, which is this communication researcher received 50,000 state grant to study drug abuse. And then you go to the next step. This version gives the reader a bit information to go on. We might want to be more specific by narrowing down the subject area, both to more accurately reflect the focus of the grant and to attract the reader interest about the project. And now here we have something that is more narrowed down and more focused. A communication researcher at the Central University has received a 50,000 state grant to study ways to persuade young people not to abuse illegal drugs. Now here we have another addition. The study or the grant is given because they want to persuade young people not to abuse illegal drugs. So simply, when you write in news summary leads, you have to be very logical. Now we have told the reader something about who with the details to come. We've given several bits of information about what, and we've mentioned the why and the where. Certainly, these are the major elements of the lead to be expanded upon later. The when element is less important and can be dealt with later in the story, and the how will be explained in the succeeding paragraph. So here, the most important thing is to mention, especially in the leads, we are concerned more with the what and why. What we are going to do and why we are going to do it. What we are going to do is to, you know, help the young people, persuade them not to abuse illegal drugs. And why? Because we want to, tell them, not to do something that is very, negative to their body and to their also to the society that they are living in. Okay, I think I'm losing my breath, and I think that's enough for today. Next time, inshallah, we will continue our discussion of the components of the news lead. Today we talked about the news. Next time we will discuss the context, and we will continue our discussion. We will move slowly because I feel like we are speeding up. So I just want you to take breath and to be able to catch up with other homeworks in other classes. So today we don't have any homework. Just read and watch this video. And thank you very much for listening. And have a wonderful day.